Welcome to T Lokes, Tucson's local business podcast. I'm your host, L. Connor McEverly, and in each episode, we embark on a journey to connect with the passionate minds behind the businesses and nonprofits that make our community thrive. Join me as I sit down with the owners, visionaries, and change makers who pour their hearts into shaping the local landscape. We explore the challenges, triumphs, and unique journeys that define Tucson's business community. From the corner coffee shop to the innovative startups and impactful nonprofits, T Lokes is your window into the diverse stories that make our city special. Tune in and get ready to get connected. This is T Lokes. Howdy, folks, and welcome to T Lokes, your Tucson local business podcast. I'm your host, L. Connor McEverly, and here with me in the studio today is the owner of our local Allstate insurance agency, the Brittni Linae Gutman Allstate Agency. It is my pleasure to introduce to the show, Brittni Gutman. Brittni, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, Connor. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being on the show. I really appreciate you making time.
I appreciate the offer.
Oh, of course. It's a pleasure to have you here. So let's go ahead and let's just jump right into the questions,
2 feet, ready.
So in doing some of my research, I learned that you came from Wisconsin and you headed to Tucson maybe, I guess, over 17 years ago now.
Yeah.
What originally brought you to Tucson and what made you decide to stay and build your career and business here?
Yeah, my grandparents moved out to Tucson in the early 90s.
Nice. And
I'm from a very small town. We actually just looked up the population the other day, and it hasn't grown much. It's about 800.
Wow.
And so when they trickled out, my dad came out shortly after.
Yeah.
And early in my teen years, I decided, of course, that I wanted to give living with dad a try.
Yeah.
And so I had already been flying out here by myself, really young. Back in the 90s, you could pay $25 to have one of the flight attendants, kind of walk you between flights.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. And then we got McDonald's.
Nice.
Yeah. But so anyway, I just had kind of trickled out here, and then my dad and I moved quite a bit, and Tucson has just always been so precious. I've seen the sunset in Florida and in Minnesota, and there's just something about a Tucson sunset.
Yeah.
Nothing beats it. So that's why I stay.
Seriously. Sunset's so good, you'll build a business out here. Right?
Exactly.
Right. Yeah. So you took over the Bruce Unger agency.
Yes.
I guess a little over 11 years ago now?
No, 2020. Bruce,
okay.
Yep, Bruce owned the agency for 27 years.
Gotcha.
Yep, and then in 2020, I was selling employee benefits, and through Allstate,
right.
the Allstate benefits program, and part of that was kind of a multifaceted role. I sold employee benefits to local businesses, and then I also partnered with Allstate agents in town and taught them and would enroll for them.
Nice.
And Bruce was one agent that I worked alongside. And then all of a sudden, the pandemic hit.
Yeah.
And when you're selling employee benefits and employers are wondering how to keep their employees, that dwindled away pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And so I went kind of begrudgingly to Bruce's office one day because I was still very much active in my benefits role.
Right.
And I remember driving up to Oro Valley and I'm thinking to myself, is he going to have a referral, or are we going to have something to work on here? And so I pull up to the office and I walk in and I sit down and he said, I have something so left field for you.
Yeah.
And I'm like, lay it on,
Right.
And he said, I wanted to know if you would want to buy my insurance agency. And I've handpicked you, I really think my clients would love and appreciate you.
Yeah.
And I was negative in my bank account and I'm like, yeah, sure. How do we start, And it just was blessed. Every no turned into a yes. And it just was easy,
Yeah.
It was challenging and I was persistent.
Yeah.
But it was blessed and I'm grateful.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's got to feel like I mean, that's got to feel pretty amazing to be handpicked for like leadership of an agency.
He's the sweetest. Yeah. He, he tells people that he actually wrote a letter to all of our clients before, he was the agent for almost 30 years, so they were very loyal to him.
Right.
And he does still work for me.
Nice.
He's, I actually just was putting together, I'm preparing my 5-year anniversary in December.
Oh, congratulations.
And so that comes with building another business plan for the next 5 years.
Totally. Yeah.
And so I said, Bruce, do you want to, are you going to be a part of this plan? And he said, I think I want to go from 3 days to 4 days a week.
Oh, okay.
Let's do it, man. So
nice.
Yeah, the clients love him.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure like after 30 years of working in insurance, like you do build relationships with the people like around you, and I can only imagine that being tied, to the well-being of folks' like property, cars, like all these things that they value, and, being a person to help and protect those assets that people have, like you're going to build a strong relationship with folks. And
yeah, I don't think you can be in this line of work without having compassion and empathy. And of course, those are coupled with love, and
totally.
Caring. And, just last month, I lost a very dear client. I wish I could say that they're all my favorite, but he was definitely one that, I don't know how your audience is, so I don't mean any disrespect, but he was kind of being a little sassy one day to a couple of my employees.
I see.
Just because that's the way he was. He was just, shoot from the hip and didn't really have a filter.
Yeah.
But he knew he was being sassy, so he ended up bringing everyone in my office a cactus as a gift to apologize. You get it. I don't have to say it. But yeah, you grow through life with people.
Totally.
Teenage drivers, their first car accident, definitely death or driver's license, your grandma's given up the license, and those are tough conversations to have.
Totally.
I've always wanted to be the agent that grew through life with you, all those changes, marriages, divorces, whatever. It all comes with insurance changes. Totally.
Yeah, I can only imagine. And I guess like looking back at the time where you started taking ownership of the agency, what was that like kind of transitioning into an ownership role there?
Yeah, I had managed for another large agent and worked for her for almost 12 years, 11 years. Yeah. And during that time, I managed, and, I've been doing insurance now for almost 20 years.
Yeah.
And so, I've knocked on doors, I've cold called, I tell my employees that there's never anything I'm asking you to do that I haven't done or that I don't know that it works,
Yeah.
The other, weird thing that not a lot of people know about me though is that I got my GED. I moved around too many times. At one point, my credits weren't even transferring with me. They had misspelled my name, and so I'm a high school dropout. I never went to college for business management, and I was just having lunch with someone yesterday, and she was telling me how she outsources her payroll, and I was kind of proud because I do my own payroll.
Totally.
I've had to learn a lot, and I think entrepreneurship, people don't talk about the hard stuff,
Seriously. Yeah.
I've had to take a lot of risk.
Yeah, I believe it.
Yeah. So I think that part has been just realizing that I have those internal tools and skill set, that I am a solution seeker, and that I am going to, I'm going to make it happen.
Totally.
That's been something that I, have learned is definitely a cool skill set that I have,
100%. No, I mean, and that just speaks to like your persistence and proficiency as well. I mean, there are
Thank
some,
you.
of course, of course.
Connor. Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Howdy, listener. This is Connor. Thank you so much for listening to our episode today. If you find these interviews enriching, one of the easiest ways you can help this show is to leave a rating and a review. If you go into your podcast player, For Apple Podcasts, if you scroll beneath all of the episodes, you'll find a spot where you can rate and review. If you just click that and add a review, that helps others find these impactful episodes and hear the valuable insights of the people who are the heartbeat of the Tucson community. So if you have a moment, please do that. It really helps the show. It really helps me out. Thank you so much for listening, and thank you so much for your support. Toodaloo. I mean, like, I'm going to tangent a little bit here, but I feel like, for so long, there has been this kind of societal framework for being like, you have to hit these sort of milestones. Like, I think there are so many different ways to achieve your goals. Mm-hmm. And I think you just need that, like, that go-gettership, and that persistence, and perseverance is, there's so many ways to get things done in this world. Mm-hmm. And so, I guess I don't exactly know what I'm trying to say.
No, I think I'm up in what you're spelling. I appreciate that, my mom was 47 and she was still going to college. Yeah. She said, I don't know what I want to be when I grow up, and I don't disagree with, having a plan, but to have 18-year-olds know, what they're like going to do for the rest of their lives. Yeah. It's a lot. I'm fortunate that I did find this career at 17, or it found me, whatever. And that I stuck to it, because I do think a lot of our young people don't stick to not even necessarily things that they're good at, but they don't give themselves the time to see if they have this skill set that needs to be just sharpened, or maybe the mentorship wasn't there.
I hear that. And it, to offer like a little sympathy or empathy, like I can understand how difficult it is to try to start something and not be quite as good at it as you want to be, right? And I think it's like easy for people to get disheartened when, like, for instance, like fly fishing or something, you go out there and like you're getting your flies stuck in the bushes and stuff like that. And like, you might be like, wow, I suck at fly fishing. I'm never going to do this again. But if you take that extra time and you stick to it, that stick-to-itiveness, and you like learn, and yes, you're going to keep getting some flies and some bushes from time to time, but you'll learn and you'll get there and you'll catch a fish eventually.
Yeah. Perseverance definitely builds. It's a character building, opportunity too. And totally. One piece of advice that I was given many years ago was that failure is not final and it's not fatal. Yeah. And I've definitely leaned into that in this, chapter of my life, because entrepreneurship is constantly changing.
Seriously.
Yeah. And the more that my team grows, there's more of a human element, right? Yeah. And people's needs, and you never know. You never know what each day is going to look like.
Totally.
And so I've recently had to have a conversation with myself, like, hey, it's not personal. This is the business. Yeah. And, to overcome that would be to not sit in the lull of it, like they say in show business, the show must go on.
Totally.
And I think sometimes in my experience as a business owner, I've sat and licked my wounds, for too long sometimes. Yeah. That's a setback.
Yes, it absolutely can be. Yeah. I've been there as well. Totally. But, I kind of catching on to something you were saying there about, like, how different every day can be, especially working in, the insurance industry. Like, your agency offers a ton of different sort of like insurance products and services, right? Like, you have auto, you have home, you have business and life insurance. So when you're talking to a client and you're setting up a client's policy, how do you tailor these offerings to meet the specific needs of the Oro Valley and Tucson communities?
Yeah, we definitely treat every client communicates differently. Every prospect, everyone has a different timeline.
Totally.
So ideally, in a perfect world, we would sit down and we would have, this would be priority right now. And we're going to do a financial needs analysis, and we're going to, really have an asset protection conversation. Yeah. Unfortunately, insurance, because it's a required thing, it's very much price driven. Yeah. And we have a lot of online competition. Totally. And consumers are able to, pop online, get what they need, meet the demand of,
Totally.
the state.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it's become more of just a check box that needs to be marked rather than an actual, I always say that insurance is a tool.
Totally.
It is absolutely a tool. Stop looking at it like it's a requirement. It is a tool to protect your assets.
Yeah.
So your liability limits should exceed any of your net worth and your actual exposure, because if McDonald's can get sued for hot coffee,
Yeah.
you can get sued for pulling out in front of a bicyclist, right?
Right.
So long story short, if I had the opportunity to sit down with each client, so oftentimes we'll do that over the phase of a few months. We'll get the first piece done, we'll get the mortgages updated and everybody in line, and then we'll start to dive into the other products that we have.
Sure.
Because I'm in insurance, oftentimes people think you're salespeople, and we don't ever want to be that. We don't want that to be the experience.
Yeah.
And we do have a lot that we offer. Like, we can insure jewelry and pets and, floods and earthquakes. And so it's sometimes the conversation doesn't flow that direction because the need for the client is like, hey, my Geico policy just hijacked $300.
Yeah.
Like, let's take care of that need.
Right.
So that's kind of how we try to focus.
That makes sense. Yeah. And I guess, I had a thought, thinking about like insurance and the idea that like, people are just trying to check a box is like, I think to a certain degree, insurance can feel abstract because you kind of need insurance when things go wrong, right? So if things aren't going wrong, it looks like a bill, right? But like, like I had my bike stolen out of our garage, like within the first few months that we lived here. And I was like, really happy that we got home insurance and I was insured for that bike. I was able to get a new bike. And it's just one of those things where like, it feels abstract until something happens. And then once it does, you're super glad you have it. And so,
the claim situation is also really sensitive, as well. So, we definitely try to intervene as much as we can. I know that my agency is very hands-on when it comes to claims.
Right.
Every agency, every Allstate agent is different, and and I personally like to say that I'm kind of a pit bull for my clients. It's a really volatile time in insurance.
Yeah.
So I spend a lot of afternoons doing home inspections and going and, sometimes just making sure that we are being wise about our landscaping and, especially when it comes to like the mountain ranges.
Yeah, sure. With like fire danger and stuff. But I guess like when you're talking about some of that, some of the volatility in the insurance industry right now, like, would you mind speaking about that or kind of like diving into that a little bit?
Yeah, there's a lot of red tape. I'm not Allstate, right? So they don't really like me speaking on behalf of them. But I will say, just from a general perspective, we're seeing big name companies pull out of states. Allstate's not one of those companies. I'm proud to say that we're prepared and ready. You know what I mean? To be able to fill those gaps. But in many states, we're seeing, big name brands either stop selling home insurance.
Right.
And a lot of that is not necessarily the insurance companies. And I think it's important that people acknowledge that, when you're paying, call it $1,200 a year to insure your $300,000 home.
Right.
If something happens, your ROI is pretty dang good. For an insurance company, we don't have any, I say weak, like I'm footing the bill, but Allstate doesn't have any grounds for like what happened with lumber. Where it inflated 150%.
Totally.
Well, that happened overnight. And now you have houses burning down and insurance companies are having to pay out losses. And the reality is the job of the insurance company is to get you to where you were before the loss.
Yeah.
So if we're in a situation where manufacturers are charging more for materials,
right,
We're also seeing it a lot in the car repair side.
Yeah, absolutely. Last year, I had another insurance broker on who was saying something similar in terms of cars specifically, where, cars are getting like so advanced and high tech. There's like a lot of computers and a lot of wiring in there. And when, a very advanced car gets broken, it's not just, replacing a car door, it's replacing all the sensors within that car door and then the wiring and stuff. So I guess, that makes a lot of sense, kind of looking at it from like a global sort of perspective where, it's not, like you just mentioned with the lumber, the price of lumber going up, trying to rebuild that home is going to be way more expensive than it used to be. So that's definitely interesting and important to keep in mind. For everybody. I mean,
I think that's one area definitely where we pride ourselves. Oftentimes your insurance doesn't really keep up with things like that.
Yeah.
So we definitely do that with our clients, within our own, clientele. We make sure that back when I started 20 years ago, we were insuring homes about $100 to $150 per square foot.
Okay.
And now we're insuring homes between $200 and $250 per square foot.
Wow.
So you definitely want to, if you've been with your insurance company for 5 or 10 years, don't go shop and say, oh, give me an apples to apples comparison, because oftentimes what happens in my case, I can't.
Right.
I just can't. You're underinsured. You're severely underinsured. Wow. And that conversation is sometimes challenging to have, because people, they're loyal to their agent, and it's not necessarily that your agent, it was an oversight. We have a consumer responsibility too.
Yeah.
To make sure that while there's a trust there and you want an agent that's going to guide you along, we definitely have onus in that. And you want to make sure that your insurance is keeping up with things like that.
Totally.
And to the cars, that was a couple of years ago too, the chip shortage we were dealing with, the computer chips. And now, you crack your windshield and it's a safety feature that it needs to be calibrated for that loss for your car to go back on the road,
Yeah.
So those are nuances and new things that are coming to insurance that we're just having to remap.
Totally. No, and that makes a ton of sense. It's good to hear you talk about these things, because I feel like I get like a more full picture and like a better understanding of the insurance industry and how just interconnected it is with the rest of industries, auto, home, business, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna, I guess, kind of segue a little bit here while we're kind of talking about, kind of clarifying some aspects of the insurance agency and kind of things in the insurance industry right now. What is a common misconception that people have about what you do, or what is a challenge that you're currently facing right now?
A misconception. This might be a little biased, but I do, I have to do 84 hours of continuing education.
Wow.
Every 4 years.
Okay.
And I have every license that I can obtain, that I need to. And so one common misconception that I have is that consumers, really blew it for me when they're like, oh, go just pop online and choose your price.
Sure. Yeah.
Because not everyone's, I have clients call me sometimes and they're like, well, my best friend is my neighbor and you're his agent too.
Yeah.
And we're the same age and my credit's better than his. Yeah. And we have like almost the same car. How come I'm not paying the same as him?
Yeah.
And I understand that thought process.
Totally.
I have so much, but it's not that easy. It's not that easy. And so don't compare yourself to other people. And don't buy your insurance online. Don't do it online. And the reason why I say that and why that's a hill that I will die on is you have no idea the amount of people that come to me after the fact. And while I'm happy to do it, I don't make any money off of that part of my business.
Yeah.
But I'm happy to be a resource because I feel bad.
Yeah.
There's one company in town, rhymes with, and they love when their clients have a claim. a little in the weeds here, but
That's okay.
Many years ago, I single-handedly wanted to like take them down.
Yeah.
I was going to hire attorneys because what was happening is I have clients that have maybe just an old pickup truck.
Sure.
They only take it to the dump every now and again, so they don't have full coverage on it.
Right.
Well, in the state of Arizona is what's called a comparative negligence state, which means that even if two cars are going in the same direction and it's clear that someone's at fault,
right,
we will give each party a percentage of fault. That's just the way that the state of Arizona works, and we're not the only state that works that way. And it doesn't mean that there's not going to be 100% and a 0% sometimes.
Sure, yeah.
But the only real time that it is 100% is in a rear end accident.
Yeah.
And the car behind is responsible for every vehicle in front.
Yeah.
But one thing that happens with is that they have taken comparative negligence a little too far.
I see.
And what'll happen is their client will be clearly at fault.
Yeah.
And they'll say, well, we don't think so. We're going to go with, a 60-40 or an 80-20.
Sure.
Well, what happens in that scenario is it's I pay for my problems, you pay for yours type of thing. And if you didn't have full coverage on your vehicle, now you're out of pocket for the repairs or you just drive around with a dent because they're not going to pay for a percentage of the damages.
Right.
So that's been one problem that it's if you buy your coverage online and you don't have someone to advocate for you after the fact, I think it's really neat, to be people are happy with the service that we offer after the fact, but if we're on the front end of it, I can be much more proactive.
Totally. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, like prevention is way easier than response.
Yeah. 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 I think it's important to have, there's a reason why there's always been, a State Farm agent on every corner, or, Allstate or Farmers, there is something to be said about having an agent.
Totally.
So I think while the internet has a demographic of people that it's going to serve and they should have that opportunity. Allstate does a really great job of offering, if you don't want to work with an agency, you can work with, the mothership through the 800, whatever, you can do that.
Totally.
I've been around for a long time. I get a phone call every single day. Hey, I signed up with the 1-800 number, but I need this done, or I have this question. And it's like, come into my office. Come sit down.
Totally. No. Hey, Tucson friends. Are you or someone you know a local Tucson business owner who's looking to expand their visibility, grow their brand, and engage more with their community? Well, I want to talk to you. Don't just be a listener. Come on the show and interview. Showcase your business. Tell us all about your story. Tell about the highs, the lows, and how you serve the Tucson community. We would love to hear what you have to say and hear the intricacies of your business. Humanize your brand, position yourself as a thought leader, and get in front of more eyes and ears. Click the link below and star on an episode. I look forward to talking with you. Now back to the show. And I think, kind of like just listening and thinking about everything we've talked about, just like you were saying, like people treat insurance like checking a box, and that online feature, it gives you a chance to check boxes, right? But I know I don't know everything about my insurance, and I think it's really helpful to actually talk to someone who does know about what's going on with the insurance and, knows what coverage you may actually need. And, maybe offering you coverage like, you will need, you might not check the box online, but like you'll regret that later down the line when, maybe you get in a car accident or something like that. So yeah, I can definitely see the value in actually communicating with a person who like cares. Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. Thanks for acknowledging that. We do care.
Of course. Yeah.
We do care because at the end of the day, I'm the face in the community.
Totally.
So people do, they'll come in and they may not be a client of mine, and they'll come in and, I stand behind my work.
Yeah.
And I've been with Allstate long enough that I stand behind theirs too.
Yeah.
And so I don't mind advocating for people. I say start with Start with someone that you think you've got a good relationship with. I guess this could kind of segue into like reviews, because I do think it's important to review your insurance. I will tread lightly when I say it's important to shop your insurance. I don't always love when my clients leave, but I will tell you they come back.
Yeah.
They come back because we know price is important, and sometimes you do have to go, take this screaming deal over here for a minute, but then you have an experience with them. Mm-hmm. And I just yesterday, Connor, clients email me, tail between their legs. We regret ever leaving. Like, can you reinstate our policies from 2 years ago?
Totally.
Well, we can't do that.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Let's see what we can offer you today. Last night, 8:00 in the evening, one of my employees finished everything up for them, got them back in good hands.
Nice.
As they say.
Yeah.
But I'm very proud of that, a lot of our business is repeat business. A lot of our business, we call them win backs.
Nice.
And we really pride ourselves on the work that we do. And I'm always happy to help people navigate something that they are going through,
Totally.
Because sometimes I can't help you if you've come from a claim, Sometimes
Totally.
you can't come to our company just quite yet.
Yeah.
But you need someone to talk to help you.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I just wanted to touch really quickly on the reviews. Your agency has a lot of really great reviews. People feel very cared for.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
I mean, like I said, doing my research, absolutely look at reviews. You have a lot of really great ones.
I appreciate that.
People feel very much in good hands, So I think that's great. I think that's a testament to your agency and the integrity of your agency and your agents.
I think so too. Yeah, we do good work. We do good work, and I've always said that there's not a room that I go to many networking events, many chamber events and such, and I just don't. I'm proud to walk into those rooms and proud to take the hands of prior clients of mine and potential future clients of mine.
Totally.
I know that everyone on my team is a direct reflection of me and the integrity that we do, the work that we do. Our core values are posted in the agency. We're very humble. But we're also very mighty and proud of the footprint, the Brittni brand, as we call it.
Nice. I love that. The Brittni brand. That's great. And, kind of going off of what you mentioned about going to like Chamber of Commerce meetings, you're actively involved in the Oro Valley Chamber of Commerce. You're also in BNI, Southern Arizona. We're in the same BNI chapter. Friday mornings are great.
Yeah.
But how would you say that these affiliations contribute to your agency's growth and your personal development as a business owner?
Great question, Connor. I believe in belly to belly business. I believe in authentic business.
Yeah.
I think that, again, the work that we do is good, and the brand that we have is good.
Yeah.
And I believe that Allstate has very competitive pricing.
Yeah.
As far as networking and my interactions with the Oro Valley Chamber, the Marana Chamber, and any other networking, that I do, I believe there's so much power in consistency.
Yeah.
And being able to show up in a room.
Seriously.
And show your face as the insurance guy.
Yeah.
But what it's also done is it's given me really great relationships with other insurance professionals in town, where if I have a client that says, hey, this is something I've got to look at, I'm like, will you call this guy? You know what I mean? I trust them. They're going to do the same work that we do.
Yeah.
And so I appreciate the ability to be able to be a testimony for, my competition even. Yeah. But I also love for my clients and for my prospects, or for my people who are just moving here and we're their first real, business dealings. I always tell them, I don't care if it's a Mexican restaurant or a handyman that you need, you call my office first, because we won't steer you wrong. We know every florist, everything you need. And every time I say that, when you believe there's like some underlying odd request that they have, and I'm like, I'm the Kevin Bacon of Tucson,
Yeah.
I'm like, hold on, let me get that for you. And so just, being able to solve any problem, I think, has helped with with the networking and the marketing in town. And, the chambers are so great. Oro Valley Chamber.
Yeah.
I'm a part of another mastermind group. They let us use their space,
Nice.
so just really love the collaboration and partnership within the community.
Totally. Absolutely. I mean, and I think that it's so important to be invested in your community. I mean, based on your business, you already are invested in people in the community and invested in their well-being. And I think that's just going another step further to help uplift people in the community. And even, like you said, like even competition, which I think is a big thing to do, like as a person, be like a big person, to be able to be like, hey,
sure.
yeah, well, exactly. You're able to look and be like, well, yes, they're competition, but yes, they're also good at what they do and worthy of your time. And I think that's very respectable.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. So let's shift gears a little bit. So you've been in Tucson for over 17 years at this point, and, I'm positive you've seen Tucson change over the years, and we talked a bit about how the insurance industry has been changing over recent years. What are some noticeable changes you've witnessed within Tucson, and what impact have they had on the way you do business?
Well, Tucson we always joke, it's such a manana town, like so laid back.
Yeah.
It's also interesting because we're a college town and we're a snowbird community.
Yeah.
So while, summer kind of offers Tucson the opportunity to speed up a little bit. You know what I mean? Like everyone who's here, boots on the ground, not moving.
Yeah.
We're like, oh, good. They're off the road. They're out of the way. Let me get to my meetings. So I would say that, I think we've been seeing from an insurance perspective, insurance has really tried to do more technology-based rating, try to do mileage, discounts and things like that, the work from home, the one thing that we do I shouldn't call them snowbirds because I'm from Wisconsin too, but one thing that we do for when our clients are coming and going is we can put their vehicle in storage where it's just covered for, fire, theft, vandalism, pack rat damage, glass.
Right.
So that's something that is unique to Allstate and something that we've been, really doing a lot more as that climate has been increasing.
Yeah.
And then another change would probably just be the melting pot that Tucson has become.
Yeah.
We've really, no politics involved. Tucson has just become a very desired location.
Yeah.
And so the diverse language that we've kind of had to, insurance varies every state.
Yeah.
Every state has different coverages and different, way that they call certain things.
Sure.
And so just to kind of, be easy to, kind of translate all of those things over. I think that's probably the most that I've really seen it change.
Right.
The technology-based rating has probably been the biggest change, and a lot of insurance companies have been leaning into that the last several years, especially since the pandemic.
Yeah.
Why charge people when they're not driving,
Totally. Right.
But then people are like, hey, that's a little Big Brother. I don't know if I want that.
Yeah, I can see that.
It's both. But then
It's
they're like,
both,
but
yeah.
I only drive 1,000 miles a year. And it's like, you're the perfect candidate for it. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And sometimes we do have to be like, well, what other apps do you have on your phone? Because I promise we're the least intrusive.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's a whole other topic, right? Is just the privacy we think we have.
That's a perfect way to put it.
Yeah.
And
boom, privacy we think we have. Well, I'm curious again, because I know you mentioned being on a podcast. What podcast were you on recently?
Southwest Flavor.
Southwest Flavor.
Yeah.
Okay.
My buddy Ron and Janae, buddies. I love them.
Yeah.
They own Picturex Cooling, Heating, and Plumbing.
Okay.
Yeah. They're really cool people. Southwest Flavor. It's we talked about my farm life a lot and also just kind of encompassed on how I insurance by day and
raise animals by night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I've I did another one several years back about neurolinguistics.
Super interesting.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I was hypnotized or I think he tried to do like a hypnosis. I don't know. Do a quick Goog search of me.
Yeah.
You'll find it. Or don't.
That's so interesting.
Don't page 3 Google.
Don't page 3. Oh, that's so. I mean, I'm curious. Like, what was that about? The neurolinguistics?
Oh gosh, yeah, that's deep stuff. Yeah. Well, there's a lot of there's neurolinguistics when it comes to sales,
Sure.
and the approach to things like that. But in this particular case, it was, kind of unlocking. I think all of us in our lives will go on a journey of kind of whatever you want to call it, shadow work, child, trauma, whatever it is.
Internal family systems.
Yeah. Just an unraveling and then a discovery of why you are the way that you are and really what you want to keep bringing with you.
Totally. Yeah.
And so I think it was pretty neat. We kind of like took this, visual, verbal journey together and then, unpacked a traumatic event and then kind of just decided what we needed to repack.
Right.
And I guess synonymously to writing a letter that you never send.
Yeah.
Except mine's posted on the internet.
Yeah. That's funny. Oh, that's interesting. That's super interesting. Well, I'll have to check those out. I'm curious.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit of a podhead. So,
I was thinking about that when I was getting ready this morning, how you say if anybody's pod curious.
Yeah.
I love all the funny little terms now.
Yeah. English is a great language for that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I made up a word the other day. I thought, actually, here's the truth, Connor.
Okay.
I'm partially deaf.
Okay.
One ear is all. That's all the one that's working. So if you and I happen to ever be among many people, and you're on this side of me, it's because I don't care what you're saying. No, I'm kidding. Yeah. I'm just kidding. But so oftentimes when you can only hear out of one ear, I mishear things.
Totally.
It's comical, really. Yeah. The things that I do think I hear.
Yeah.
I should start like a journal, It's really fun. My fiance loves sports.
Yeah.
And so he's always walking around with his phone, like talking some game.
Yeah. And
I'm like, what did they just say? And I'll like, repeat it. And he's like, that was not at all what they said. But fitness fear. I was in a BNI meeting and this guy was like a gym owner and he said something and I was like, did you just say fitness fear? Like the atmosphere of the gym, the fitness fear? Yeah. And he was like, no, I didn't. And I was like, coin it.
That's
now.
Great. Yeah. Join the fitness sphere.
Exactly. Yeah. I feel like that was like the most all-encompassing definition.
Yeah.
I don't know if you ran with it or not. Well, I would have.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, shoot, put a copyright on that.
I'm
ASAP.
gonna trademark it. I'm gonna follow up with him actually. Be like, fitness sphere.
Yeah.
Did you ever do anything with that? Well, now we've put it out there to the worldwide
podheads. That's true. We put it out to the T-Lokes out there, so we got to get to it quick.
Yeah.
So coming back to the Brittni Gutman Allstate agency, you've emphasized providing superior customer support to nearly 1,800 families you've worked with. What strategies do you employ to ensure that each client feels valued and well served?
Well, I can't be omnipresent as much as I try. Yeah. And sometimes I try so hard to do that. I'll hold on to things, and I'm like, I know I'll be able to get to them myself. I want to handle that myself. Totally. I want them to know that it was me that worked on that. Here's the cool thing. I have a growing team, but I do have 4 that have been with me for 2-3 years. And when I say they're a direct reflection of me, hands down, my office manager, Samantha, she's everything I'm not, and then some, like I'm not a type A personality and Samantha, she is, and she loves an Excel spreadsheet. Yeah. So for example, if I'm in a conversation with a client and they're, shoot from the hip, hey, Brittni, this is what I need it by this time. Can you help me? I'm happy to, help them. If
Totally.
you're like, hey, I really want to fine tooth comb this and I really want to, apples to apples and I need a spreadsheet.
Yeah.
I'm probably going to be like, do you mind working with Samantha? Because I think you would really enjoy her.
Totally.
Or, or Caitlin, she loves people, she just loves people. So I think that a way that we've, done a really good job of providing superior service is, first of all, we pay attention to detail, small details.
Yeah.
I'm a lover of handwritten notes.
Yeah. Yes.
And so we send thank you cards. I think it's an important part of our weekly process. I call it the attitude of gratitude session, where you just kind of sit down and send some thank you cards. And we also laminate ID cards, which I know is kind of weird, but no one sends ID cards anymore. So I'm proud of that.
Nice.
And I think that we definitely add a level of compassion just because we know that we do good work.
Yeah.
Everyone on my team is very forward thinking, which I think is not often that you see that these days.
Yeah.
So we definitely try to, and we're going to mess up.
Yeah.
We're human.
Totally.
And that's the other thing is we just ask for grace. We try not to set unrealistic expectations.
Totally.
Try to get on the same timeline as our, client or our prospect and be as respectful of that timeline. On the same note, we're very busy. We're working hard, and we want to, make sure that we're putting you in the right priority box too. Not that you're not a priority, but is it a tomorrow priority or next week for you?
Yeah, yeah.
Some people, they want it right here, right now, and this is what I'm taking care of today.
Sure.
And we can accommodate that 1,000%.
Right.
But if you're like, yeah, I would love to see it, and then I would love to digest it.
Yeah.
And then I would love to take a week to think about it.
Yeah.
And then I want to sit down with you and go through it, then let's just have that conversation too. You know what I mean?
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that totally makes sense. Yeah. Where it's meeting the client where they're at in a big way. And then also a strategic use of delegation with your teammates, to make sure that people are being satisfied with what they need, be it that fine tooth comb, be it the Excel sheet, or if it is like a prolonged and kind of well thought out insurance journey. So
yeah, I love that. Yeah, we try to be, be what we can in all of those facets. Like I said, I'm pretty, I don't know what word I'm looking for. We're right there in Oro Valley, Saddlebrook. Those are, that's kind of my demographic.
Totally.
But again, I know there's a whole demographic of people that want to do business through email or through text.
Totally.
Yeah. And so we've got that. We can do that too.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, there's so many different ways to communicate now, and everyone has their preferences.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely meeting people where they're at can really go a long way for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So bringing it, to kind of Tucson, the Tucson community, are there any local causes, events, or organizations in Tucson that you or your agency are particularly passionate about supporting?
Yes, I am on the board for Power Over Predators and Mothers Against Child Exploitation.
Fantastic.
The POP program. One of my employees, Caitlin, she's a volunteer for Hermitage Cat Shelter.
Okay.
And we've done a lot of, work over the years with 100 Plus Women Who Give, Interfaith Community Services. Nice. We try to do some type of drive, if it's not monthly, quarterly.
Right.
We just did one where we were able to give back to the Youth on Their Own program.
Nice.
A nice food drive. Our clients were so generous.
Right.
I always try to sponsor, they kind of come in waves, but I try to sponsor when I can, Mountain View Soccer. I know we sponsored this year.
Nice.
Every year I sponsor Saddlebrook Senior Softball.
Nice.
And we definitely try to give back where we can, volunteer where we can. We just did some quilt work for the Greater Purpose of Tucson project.
Nice. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Thanks.
Yeah, those are a lot of really good organizations that you've listed doing really impactful and important work. So folks, we'll also have links to these organizations in the show notes. So feel free to go ahead, check out the episode notes, and those links will be right there for you. I guess maybe working off of that, the support that you've been giving to other organizations in the Tucson area, how do you feel that impacts your business?
Well, I think because we, it's heart work. So I don't do it for that, I don't. We have it on the back of our thank you cards, that we send out to usually our clients, kind of like, this is where your premium dollars are going,
Totally.
But it's not necessarily something that we, that we shout from the rooftops. I mean, we try to too, because it's important for people to know that, that we are doing more, right?
Totally. Yeah.
I think that if you have a platform, and I'm very faith driven, and I believe that I've been blessed, and so the opportunity to do more and to open my heart for more, is important to me, 100%. To keep me humble, and to keep my staff, to know that no matter what we're up to or how far you make it, to just always keep your boots on the ground, know your moral compass.
Totally.
I also think that volunteering when I was 12, I used to live about a mile away from a nursing home.
Okay.
And I had 2 dogs, and I had a cat, and Sweet Pea. and Jade and Lyric were my dogs. Nice. And I would put each of the dogs on a leash on each handle, and then my cat in the crate in the middle of the bicycle. And I would ride down to this nursing home, and I would just go there really to like set my animals free and let the elderly enjoy them, And I was there so much doing that, they ended up making me a volunteer. And so I was volunteering at that nursing home. Gosh, I think they wanted to hire me by the time I was like 14, So I've always had a really strong work ethic. And I think, my brain just doesn't stop. So why not, keep on spreading love wherever we can.
Absolutely. I hear that 100%. That's a sweet story. Thank you for sharing.
I digress.
Hey, it's all right. So I guess looking ahead, we've talked about your experience leading up to taking ownership of the agency. We've talked about your experience owning the agency and how you, strive to bring your customers excellence all the time. Let's look forward, and looking ahead, what are your aspirations for the Brittni Linae Gutman Allstate agency? And how do you plan to continue serving and engaging the community?
Yeah, I think kind of just circling back to what I said earlier about just consistency.
Yeah.
I think what we do is good. We're doing good work. We have a good brand.
Yeah.
My agency is growing, and we're growing mostly organically.
Yeah.
And we're retaining also, which is helpful for growth.
Yeah.
If you had a peek at my chat GPT, you would see that we have a project started called the Brittni Insurance Empire. So I don't know if that'll be a part of the plan, but like I said, I've been doing this for 20 years almost. And at this point in my career, I love mentoring. I love leading people, sharpening their skill set, and breathing life into what they're good at.
Yeah.
And so I think the next chapter of this entrepreneurship is going to be growing my agency, but by growing my team, we'll be able to expand our culture and the way that we do business more broadly.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, those are great aspirations. I hope the Brittni Insurance Empire, takes off. So, Brittni, thank you so much for coming in today. I really appreciate your time. I have a few more questions for you before we wrap up for today. So, one of those things being, for our listeners who I'm sure want to know more about you, to know more about your Allstate agency and hear more of your insights, where can folks go?
Ooh, well, we have an office.
Okay.
And it is in Oro Valley.
Okay.
So there's the opportunity for, if you want to do an in-person, my name is uniquely spelled. It's Brittni, Brittni.
Yep.
And we can be found on Facebook, on Google. We have our agency website.
Yeah.
We can be reached by phone at 520-797-7811. And that's also a textable number.
Great.
And I am typically in my email all day, every day. So bgutman@allstate.com is another great way to reach me.
Perfect. And folks, again, if you're trying to reach out to Brittni or the Brittni Linae Gutman Allstate Agency, go ahead and check out the episode notes and all those links will be right there for you. So, Brittni, you also mentioned that you do, some quarterly fundraisers or, monthly projects. Do you have any events coming up in the near future that people should keep an eye out for?
We just concluded a diaper drive, and usually in the summer months we do kind of put a pause on the goods drives because we don't have as much foot traffic.
Sure.
So we'll probably lean into something more into the fall.
Okay.
And I can definitely keep you posted.
Yeah, please do. And on your socials, do you guys post about the drives and the fundraisers you're doing? So great. So folks, again, if you're interested, go ahead, go to the episode notes and follow the Brittni Gutman Allstate Agency social medias. So yeah, thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
And before I let you go, I got one more question for you. And it's the question that I ask everybody who comes through these doors. What is one thing out of the many that you love about Tucson?
Well, let's see.
It's a hard one.
It is.
It's the hardest question I ask
This
everybody.
is probably the most time-consuming part of the podcast.
It is.
Well, because I'm from Wisconsin and I'm a beer girly.
Yeah.
Dillinger Brewery.
Dillinger Brewery.
Check them out.
Yeah, I will.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're fun.
I'm a beer girly too.
I don't even know what you have in your stein.
Water. Yeah. Yeah. My stein, I like to say my stein is a Stanley cup for me. I'm staying hydrated.
Steinley.
Steinley. Exactly. It's my Steinley cup. More trademarks. More trademarks. But something about big cups just keeps me hydrated. So whatever works,
Yeah. Dillinger Brewery and the Brittni Gutman Insurance Agency. And Teal Oaks podcast.
Well, those are three things, but we'll let it slide. Thank you so much for talking with us today, Brittni. I really appreciate it. And until next time.
Until next time.
Toodaloo, folks. And that's a wrap for another episode of Teal Oaks, your go-to podcast for uncovering the untold stories of Tucson's local businesses and nonprofits. A big thank you to our incredible listeners for joining us on this journey of connection and discovery. I want to offer a huge thank you to Brittni Gutman from the Brittni Linae Gutman Allstate Agency for coming on the show today and sharing with us about why it's so important to talk to a local insurance representative when you're trying to find out your policy. And also talking about some of those nuances in the insurance industry right now and just for having a great gab. So thank you so much, Brittni. It was really a pleasure. Check out her links in the episode notes. A big thank you to Louis Sanders from Sound Monk Studios for composing the awesome Teal Oaks theme music. If you enjoyed today's episode and want to stay connected with Tucson's vibrant business scene, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. Your feedback is invaluable, and it helps us continue bringing you engaging conversations. As we wrap up, remember that Teal Oaks isn't just a podcast, it's a community. Let's keep the conversation going on social media. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, or our Discord channel and share your thoughts, suggestions, or even recommend a local business or nonprofit you'd like to see featured on the show. Thank you once again for being a part of the Teal Oaks community. Until next time, stay connected, stay inspired, and keep supporting the heartbeat of Tucson. Toodaloo.